I was their biological son, yet they erased me. They stole my name, my future, and after I died, they had me cremated and forgotten, all to pave the way for my cousin. Even the acceptance letter to the prestigious high school I had earned with my life had Jerry's name on it. In front of my memorial portrait, my parents and sister couldn't even be bothered to glance my way, too busy throwing him a celebratory banquet. Yet when I opened my eyes, I was reborn. I was back on the day my cousin first set foot in our home. Looking at the boy who feigned awkward shyness while hiding a deep-seated jealousy in his eyes, I suddenly smiled. This time, I wouldn't beg for their biased affection. I wouldn't fight him for my room, my toys, my friends, or my parents. I would let him have all their favoritism, let him have the title of good older brother. But I would keep my grades, my future, and my life firmly in my own hands. Because this time, the one who would be stripped of everything and left to die in the street would not be me. On the day of my rush cremation, my cousin was back at our house, throwing a lavish party. He was celebrating his acceptance into a prestigious high school. My parents were beaming with joy. My sister, Chloe, and his girlfriend were right there beside him, offering their congratulations. A few days earlier, I had been in a car accident. My injuries were critical. They seized the opportunity, stealing my name and my academic achievements from my cousin. Right up until I drew my last breath, they didn't bother to give me so much as a final glance. And I was their biological son. When I opened my eyes again, I was back. It was the day my cousin first set foot in our home. In this life, I would never again crave their tainted affection. "Lucas, come and meet your cousin Jerry." My dad, smiling obsequiously, introduced him to me. Jerry greeted me with some apprehension, a shy smile gracing his features. Today was the day Jerry first entered our house. He was my aunt's son. For years, he had lived with my Aunt Sarah and Uncle Mike in Michigan. From the day I was born until now, I had never met him. My aunt and uncle were both construction workers. They were both killed in an accident on the job, leaving Jerry all alone. My parents, unable to bear seeing him so destitute, decided to take him in. In my past life, it was from this day forward that my entire life was rewritten. I lost all of my parents' attention and affection. I was forced to give up everything I had to this cousin I'd never even met. My toys, my room, my best friends, my girlfriend, everything I had, both people and possessions, was slowly usurped by him. In the end, I had nothing left. I couldn't even hold on to my own life. Even my SAT scores became his. Seeing my silence, Jerry's eyes immediately welled up. With tears in his eyes, he stammered through sobs. "It seems like Lucas doesn't like me. Maybe I should just leave. That would be better than staying here, where I'm not wanted." My mom immediately pulled him into a sympathetic hug. "Don't go, Jerry," she soothed. "Lucas is just being immature." "Lucas, say hello," my dad scolded, his face stern. "Is that any way for an older brother to behave?" My sister, Chloe, chimed in. "Jerry is our guest. You need to be polite to him. Don't disappoint me." Everything they said was exactly the same as in my past life. Last time, at this very moment, I was only 14 years old. I had no idea how to control my emotions, and he easily provoked my anger. I shot back at him, telling him to stop his pathetic act. As a result, my parents gave me a harsh scolding. Later, my cousin came to my room with a snide, placating tone. I couldn't take it and kicked him out of my room. For that, my allowance for the month was completely cut off. From the day he arrived, my parents showed favoritism only to him. They no longer gave any thought to my feelings. Right up to the moment of my death, I never understood why. Why didn't my parents love me, yet gave all their tenderness to my cousin? Was it because he was a poor orphan? Was it because he was 3 months younger than me, so I had to yield to him? Or was it because he knew how to cry and play the victim? But I was their own son. Did they have any idea that from the moment Jerry set foot in this house, the one who truly became an orphan was me? But no matter how much resentment I held, it all vanished in the instant before I died. This family's love was never something I should have yearned for. In my past life, I was too desperate for the love of my parents and my sister. In my attempts to please them, I wasted my energy and time on utterly meaningless things. This time, I no longer wanted their biased affection. I would study hard, carve out a respectable future for myself, and protect my life and my grades. Then I would leave this house as soon as I could. I forced a slight smile. "Hey, Jerry." Jerry seemed a little surprised by my demeanor, but he quickly composed himself. His eyes scanned the living room, finally landing on the model car sitting on the coffee table. "That car is so cool," he exclaimed. "I've never seen a model that detailed. It must have been expensive." He couldn't hide his admiration. Before anyone else could say a word, I strode over to the coffee table, snatched the model, and tossed it into his arms like a piece of garbage. "It's yours." That model was a birthday gift from my dad. I had adored it as a child. I kept it on my desk while I did homework, slept with it in my arms, and placed it on the coffee table to keep me company while I watched TV. In my past life, Jerry had said he liked it too. He asked for it, and I refused. So he ran crying to my parents to tattle on me. My parents were furious. They berated me, saying that an older brother needed to learn to give way to his younger cousin. Then they forcibly pried the model from my hands and shoved it into his arms. I was devastated for a whole week. Every night, I could only hug my pillow and cry myself to sleep under the covers. But now I was no longer so fragile. He wanted it, didn't he? Fine, he could have it all. I no longer wanted to keep anything given to me by my father, who played favorites. Jerry casually caught the model. "Thanks, man." His expression, however, was nonchalant, nothing like the excitement in his voice when he had first called it so cool. He didn't seem excited at all. It was just like the last time he got the model. Back then, after using my parents to snatch the model from me, he had accepted it while profusely thanking them. He promised he would treasure it, even planting several loud kisses on it. It was a sickeningly innocent display. My parents were delighted, praising him for being so mature and adorable. They completely ignored me, standing there trembling with rage. This time, when I gave it to him willingly, he showed little interest. Of course, the model itself meant nothing to him. What he truly enjoyed was the act of taking things from me. Seeing me give up the toys so willingly, my father was very pleased. "Now that's how an older brother should act, Lucas. You're growing up, becoming more responsible." My sister, Chloe, echoed his praise. "That's more like it. You didn't disappoint me." From an angle they couldn't see, Jerry shot me a dark look. It was a look of undisguised jealousy, carrying a malice so potent it felt like he wanted to devour me whole. I couldn't help but think back to the car crash from my past life. The immense pain felt as if it still lingered in my bones, as if it had just happened moments ago. A heavy feeling settled in my chest. I made an excuse about needing to do homework and left the living room. Dinner was an unusually lavish affair. My parents had spent the entire day cooking to welcome Jerry, laying out nearly 30 dishes, enough to feed a dozen people. It was more than enough food. But Jerry wouldn't let me be. The moment I reached my fork for a dish, he would immediately tell my parents, "That's my favorite one." My parents, doting on him, would scoop the food onto his plate. "Slow down, don't choke," they'd say. "Eat as much as you like." They would also instruct me to leave the dishes he liked for him. My parents said I got to eat this kind of food all the time, so it wouldn't hurt me to have less. But since Jerry had never had it before, I should let him have his fill. The truth was, I hardly ever got to eat these dishes. We only saw them on the table for holidays like Thanksgiving. It wasn't a regular occurrence. I wasn't trying to take the whole serving platter. I just wanted a couple more bites. It wouldn't have affected Jerry in the slightest. In my past life, I couldn't stand Jerry's behavior. I had deliberately taken 2 extra pieces of my favorite buffalo wings. As a result, my parents accused me of being inconsiderate. We got into a huge fight right there at the table. It escalated quickly, and by the end, my face was flushed and I was shaking with rage. In a fit of rage, my father slapped me across the face. He ordered me to get away from the table, saying I had no right to be there. I was stubborn. I didn't touch my fork again and went to bed hungry. I hid in my room, wiping away tears, and peeked through the crack in the door. I watched as my parents kept piling food onto Jerry's plate. My sister patiently served him soup. They were a picture of a happy family, laughing and talking, full of warmth. They looked like a real family. Thinking about it now, even though I had long since resolved to give up any hope for my parents' affection, my heart still ached. I took a deep breath, forcing the wave of self-pity back down. If I couldn't eat one dish, I'd eat another. If that one was off limits, I'd move to the next. I would just keep going down the line. Before long, more than half the dishes on the table had been declared Jerry's favorites. My parents repeatedly warned me not to touch them. The whole situation was utterly absurd. Fortunately, I had already managed to sample a bit of everything, so I was mostly full. I set down my fork. "I'm finished," I announced. "You guys enjoy." Then I turned to Jerry. "Since you like all of these dishes so much, you should finish them all. Don't let them go to waste. After all, Mom and Dad went to so much trouble." Jerry understood the jab in my words. His face darkened, and he jabbed his fork hard into his bowl. He looked furious. Back in my room, just as I closed the door, I heard Jerry's voice from the living room. "Uncle Johnson, does Lucas really not like me? He sounded like he wants me to eat until I burst." My dad finally caught on. "Lucas is throwing a tantrum again," he sighed. "I just praised him this afternoon, and for what? It was a complete waste of breath." Mom piled a large helping of food onto Jerry's plate. "Don't pay him any mind," she said. "You're too thin. Eat up." Wiping away crocodile tears, Jerry said, "Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, you're so good to me. Just like real family. In the future, can I maybe call you Mom and Dad? I'll treat you just like my real parents." My parents beamed, their smiles stretching from ear to ear. "Of course you can. From now on, we are your parents." I locked my door, my face a mask of indifference, shutting out the sounds of their happy little family. They were on the other side of the door now. From that day on, Jerry officially became a part of the household. With my parents' full endorsement, he began to compete with me for everything, just as he had in my past life. This time, however, my mindset was completely different. He complained that his room was too small, eyeing my larger one, and asked to switch. In my past life, I had refused, telling him to dream on. I warned him not to even think about it. But in the end, I was forced to give in. Under relentless pressure from my parents and sister, a mix of guilt, tripping, and threats, the old me had eventually caved. This time, however, I remained calm. I didn't argue or cause a scene. I just quietly packed up my belongings and gave him the room. I had a game console he didn't, and he wanted it. He insisted on having my specific one. In my past life, I refused to give it up. He tattled to my parents, and the ensuing argument ended with my dad smashing the console to pieces in a fit of anger. Afterwards, my dad bought Jerry a new one to apologize. As for me, I got nothing. This time, I just handed him the console. He immediately lost all interest in it, tossing it under his bed like a useless decoration, and never touched it again. He never played it once. I fulfilled all of his unreasonable demands. I gave him everything he asked for. Behind my back, he called me a fool for not standing up for myself. He was right. I couldn't be bothered to fight. I wanted him to feel like he was punching a pillow. This time around, even though I was still giving in, life was much quieter without the constant criticism from my parents and sister. The days became much more peaceful. No matter how much they favored him, they couldn't ruin my focus when I was studying. They would occasionally offer a word of praise, but I remained indifferent. I knew very well that it only meant they liked someone who was obedient and sided with them. It didn't mean they liked me, their son. They only loved someone else's child, just as Jerry was only obsessed with my possessions. If you were to talk about a real family, they and Jerry were much more like a true family of three. I no longer held out hope for even a shred of affection from them. Therefore, no one could hurt me in that way anymore. As the new school semester approached, my parents took Jerry and me to the mall in downtown Chicago to buy school supplies. They claimed they were taking both of us shopping for school supplies, but it was all for Jerry. I was just there for show, a fact I was keenly aware of. The memory of that shopping trip from my past life still replayed in my mind like a movie. Jerry demanded brand-name sneakers, a pair that cost over $150. My parents bought him 3 pairs without even batting an eye. All I wanted was a pair of thermal long underwear, which cost about $15, a fraction of the price of one pair of Jerry's shoes. But my parents flatly refused. I patiently explained that the classrooms were freezing in the winter and wearing 4 or 5 layers of pants was bulky and uncomfortable. I just wanted one pair that I could wear under my school uniform pants that would keep me warm without being a hassle. It was a simple request. They were practical. But instead of agreeing, they lectured me. "You're always so picky," they chided. "You're getting so spoiled." Back in our day, we didn't have thermal underwear. We couldn't even afford wool pants. The cotton in our winter clothes was recycled from old quilts. Everyone just layered up. And you? You complain about it being too thick and uncomfortable. You complain about this and that. We've really coddled you too much. You have it too easy. We've made you soft. Jerry stood by, smirking at me provocatively. I lower my head, not daring to ask for anything else. Later, they picked out a new $50 backpack for him. It was stylish, felt durable, and even had high-tech features like a built-in USB port and a water bottle pocket with tons of compartments inside. I was really impressed. I watched with envy. I remembered that my dad had promised to give me a new backpack for Christmas, so I gently reminded him. "Your backpack isn't broken," he said. "It's still clean, and you haven't had it for that long. Why do you need a new one? It's a waste of money. We're buying one for your cousin because he doesn't have one. You already have one. That's enough. Why would you need another?" Unsurprisingly, I didn't get the backpack. After a full day of shopping, my parents had spent hundreds of dollars on Jerry. As for me, they hadn't spent a single penny. This time, I knew better. I didn't ask for a thing. Parents buy things for their children out of love. When that love is gone, the child gets nothing. I understood that now. Rather than relying on their favoritism, it was better to rely on myself. Jerry, basking in my parents' affection, still got his new shoes and his new backpack. And I, with a couple of $100s I earned from a part-time job over winter break, bought the thermal underwear I had wanted for so long and a backpack of my own choosing. From now on, I would earn the things I wanted myself. I no longer needed anyone's charity. When junior high started, Jerry transferred to my school and even ended up in the same class. My parents repeatedly told me to look after him and make sure he wasn't bullied. But in my past life, no one ever bullied him. In fact, he was the one who stole my best friend, spread rumors about me behind my back, and turned my classmates against me. The reason was absurd. It was all because my desk mate happened to be the girl of his dreams. This time, I just wanted to focus on my studies, get into a good high school, then a good college, and avoid any unnecessary trouble. So, when the teacher was about to assign me to be her desk mate again, I refused. I said I wanted to sit with a student who was serious about their grades, and ended up with one of the top students in our year as my new desk mate. My new desk mate was the type of person who had no interests outside of academics, a true academic powerhouse. It was perfect. We both buried our heads in our books, helping each other solve problems and asking questions. We quickly secured the top 2 spots in our grade. Jerry, on the other hand, continued to pull my former best friend aside to spread rumors, telling lies about me, and getting the entire class to treat me like a joke. In my past life, my grades were mediocre, and the teacher had turned a blind eye. She pretended not to notice. This time, however, I went directly to the teacher. Faced with the top student in the grade, the teacher believed me without hesitation. She didn't even ask for proof. She immediately warned the entire class that anyone who interfered with my studies would face serious consequences, including possible expulsion. I used to resent that teacher, but now I realize I should have been grateful to her. The easy resolution of this issue made me truly understand that as long as your grades are good enough, many things become much simpler. I could truly earn the things I wanted through my own abilities. Throughout the rest of junior high, I dedicated almost all of my time to studying. I did practice problems in every spare moment, not wasting a single second. By the end, I could hit the score needed for the prestigious high school with my eyes closed. As for Jerry, he slept through classes, played basketball after school, and spent his nights reading comics or playing video games until the early hours. He hardly paid any attention to his studies. As the high school entrance exams neared, my parents finally grew anxious. They rushed to me, begging me to tutor him. I set aside a precious weekend afternoon, compiling a set of practice exams and key concepts for him. I went through them with him, question by question. But what was the result? He turned around and told my parents that I was unwilling to teach him, that my attitude was terrible, and that I kept calling him stupid. Then he pulled out his signature move, crocodile tears. I try so hard every day to get Lucas to like me, but he just hates me. I must not be good enough. I'm just so annoying. I might as well just go back to the foster home. At least the older kids there won't call me stupid all day. My parents' hearts broke. They hugged him, comforted him, and then turned all their anger on me, calling me cold-hearted and selfish, accusing me of not caring about my cousin's future. The shouting gave me a headache. I retreated to my room and locked the door, letting them rage outside. That night, my sister, Chloe, to cheer him up, invited him in her room to watch a movie, something she had never done before. Growing up, she had never allowed me to set foot in her room. She had almost never played with me. And now, not only did she invite Jerry in, but she also played video games with him, eating fried chicken and drinking Coke. My own sister had completely become his sister. Fortunately, I was already numb. After all, in my past life, she had done far worse. To stand up for Jerry, she had slapped me twice hard in front of our parents, knocking me to the ground. Then, she had sworn to disown me as her brother. She vowed to sever all ties. My parents were banking on Jerry getting into a good high school as well. Since I was unwilling to teach him, they had no choice but to spend a small fortune to enroll him in a prep course for the entrance exam. They constantly complained that it was all my fault, that my selfishness was costing them this unnecessary expense. In my past life, my grades were just average. When I had wanted to take the same prep course, they had told me it was pointless. They said that with my abilities, no amount of tutoring would make a difference, and it would be a complete waste of money. It was just throwing money away. Even after enrolling in the prep course, Jerry didn't study. The place was less strict than school, and he spent all day scrolling through TikTok. His grades didn't improve, they got worse. The entrance exams came and went. I got the highest score in the entire city, earning a spot at my dream high school. As for Jerry, he didn't even score high enough for a regular public high school. The day the results were released, before my parents could even say a word, Jerry started his performance. "I'm sorry, it's all my fault," he began. "I'm so useless, so stupid. I wasted all the money you spent on me, and I've let you down. I'm just not as smart as Lucas. I've embarrassed you. Someone as worthless as me doesn't deserve to be your son, not alongside Lucas. I should just leave. Thank you for taking care of me all this time. If I ever get the chance, I'll repay your kindness." The words tumbled out of him in a rushed, rehearsed speech, almost like he was reciting a poem. It was almost impressive, but my parents, terrified he would actually leave, rushed to console him. "It's all right, Jerry," they soothed. "The score doesn't matter, as long as you tried your best." Jerry, wiping away his tears, shot me a triumphant smirk. In my past life, his score had been just as bad, while I had only made it into a regular high school. Jerry had looked down on vocational schools, insisting on competing with me. So my parents had spent a small fortune to get him into the same school as me. This time, I was first in the city, but Jerry still refused to give up. He still had to compete. If he couldn't get in, he would cry, wailing about going back to the foster home, about being an unwanted orphan. He drove my parents to their wits' end, until they finally gritted their teeth and paid a hefty $20,000 donation. They pulled strings, called in favors, and pleaded with the principal just to get him into the honors program at my prestigious high school. My class. They even threatened the principal, telling him that if he didn't accept Jerry, I, the top scorer in the city, would drop out. In order to keep his star student, the principal had no choice but to make an exception. He admitted Jerry under the pretense of him being a special talent student and processed his enrollment. At first, I had no idea about any of this. It wasn't until I was rehearsing my speech for the opening ceremony and the principal mentioned Jerry's name that I finally put the pieces together. I was furious. I didn't want to be used as a bargaining chip to pave Jerry's way. I didn't want to be dragged down by him for the next 3 years of high school. I confronted my parents, demanding to know why they had done it. But they just turned it back on me. They blamed me. "You're such a good student," they said. "The top student in the city. And you can't even help your cousin out with this one little thing? How did I raise such a selfish son? If your cousin gets into a good high school, it reflects well on you too, doesn't it? You're nothing like Jerry. All you can do is study. You're useless otherwise. We can't rely on you for anything in the future." Even though I knew they didn't love me, hearing those words still felt like a punch to the gut. That summer before high school, I worked a part-time job during the day and studied advanced high school material at night. I was so busy I barely had a moment to myself. I had no free time at all. Meanwhile, Jerry spent his days hanging out with a questionable crowd, often not stumbling home until after midnight. Sometimes he would tag along with my sister, Chloe, and her friends. In front of her friends, Chloe loved to brag. My brother was the top scorer on the entrance exam. She was deliberately vague, glossing over the details, letting all her friends believe that Jerry was the one who had come in first. And Jerry never once corrected them. He basked in their admiring glances, letting the misunderstanding flourish. He loved the attention. This whole family was rotten to the core. The only thing I could do was study as hard as I could and prepare for a future where I could be completely independent. It was my only way out. The high school had a policy where students with the top entrance exam scores received a full scholarship. Tuition was covered, and they received a monthly stipend of $150 on their meal cards. When my parents found out, they immediately cut off my allowance. They reasoned that with the scholarship money, I had more money than I could spend. My allowance was gone. Jerry's allowance, on the other hand, was increased by $100. He would flash the cash in my face, smugly telling me that everything I had now, my money, my parents, even my life, would all be his one day. I stared at him coldly. "If you got the guts," I said, "go ahead and try." That same night, he ran crying to my parents. "Dad, Lucas said I stole his money. Is that true? I'm sorry. I didn't realize taking an allowance came at such a high cost. I don't want it anymore. I don't want a single penny. Just give it all to Lucas. It was my fault. I shouldn't have taken what belongs to him. I should just leave. Otherwise, everything I get, Lucas will think I stole it from him." My parents' hearts ached for him. They soothed him, comforted him, and to console him, they gave him another $100. I stood by and watched in silence, a small, cold smile playing on my lips. I unlocked my phone and played the recording of his earlier taunts. The sound of his smug voice filled the room. The color drained from Jerry's face. My parents were bewildered. "Lucas, what is this?" Jerry lunged at me like a wild animal, trying to grab my phone. "Delete it," he screamed. I raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. The sharp sound echoed through the room. He froze for a moment, stunned. Then he exploded in a hysterical rage. "You son of a bitch!" he shrieked. "You dare to hit me? Do you have a death wish?" "Jerry!" my father shouted, his voice sharp. He immediately realized he had lost his composure and switched back to his pitiful victim persona. "It was Lucas," he explained, his eyes welling with tears. "He was mad that I have an allowance, and he doesn't. He forced me to say those things. He claimed I had threatened him, forcing him to give me half of his allowance each month, threatening to play the recording for our parents if he didn't. I can't believe he tricked me," he sobbed. "I just gave him the money, and he played the recording for you anyway. I thought he just disliked me a little, so I kept trying to win him over. I never imagined he hated me this much, enough to make you misunderstand me. It's all my fault. I'll leave now. I won't bother your family ever again." The second they saw his tears, my parents softened. Their anger shifted back to me. "Why are you always bullying your cousin?" they demanded. "Is it because we cut off your allowance? You earn so much from your part-time job. You have the scholarship and that stipend on your meal card. Do you really need more money from us? How much could you possibly spend in a month? Are you planning to waste it on something stupid? Drinking, partying, buying designer clothes? You're so young and already so irresponsible. You are nothing but trouble. You need to learn some responsibility." There, Jerry, don't cry," my mom soothed. "If he ever bullies you again, you just come and tell us. We'll take care of it." Jerry nodded, a look of pure victimhood on his face. "Okay," he sniffled. "Thank you, Mom and Dad." I laughed. It was all so ridiculous. Who was the one spending money like water? The one who was out drinking and partying? The one obsessed with designer labels? Who was really bullying whom? Did they honestly not see it? Were they really that blind? I had chosen not to fight back, not to argue, but that didn't mean I didn't care at all. I wouldn't just take it forever. It was just that, for me, my studies were more important. I didn't have time for their games. If they wanted to love him, they could treat him like their own son. I wouldn't disturb their happy family anymore. My only request was this: stop using my name to deceive people. I turned and walked away, hearing them whisper behind me. We raised him for nothing, my dad muttered. He even dares to talk back to us now. He thinks he's all grown up, doesn't see us as his parents at all. I know, my mom agreed. I wish Jerry were my real son. He's so well behaved, so much less trouble. Let Lucas go wherever he wants. I'm not giving him another cent. If he wants to throw a fit, let him. It's his own fault for being so disobedient. I closed my eyes. Fine, I told myself. Let be. Don't ever hope they'll change. Not long after that fight, I moved out. The school provided me with a single dorm room, complete with a private bathroom. I was allowed to stay over weekends and holidays. As a high-priority student, I was afforded certain privileges. After the semester began, even though Jerry was still in my class, life became infinitely smoother. I was finally away from my parents and sister. On top of that, the principal, the dean, and all my teachers were keeping a close eye on me. Jerry wouldn't dare to openly cause me any trouble. We acted like strangers. Over the course of the semester, we barely exchanged a handful of words. Jerry and I had a slight family resemblance, but I wore plain, black-framed glasses and dressed simply. He, on the other hand, was always dressed in trendy, expensive clothes, looking like a rich kid. Unless we were speaking, no one would ever connect the two of us. No one would ever guess that we were related. To our classmates, he was the generous, wealthy kid, and I was just the bookworm who kept to himself. My deskmate was named Olivia. She had a lively personality and was beautiful, and she had scored second in the city on the entrance exam, just 1 point behind me. I spent all my time studying, so I didn't talk to her much. Even when she tried to tell me jokes, I found them boring and never laughed. Then, one day, she suddenly asked, "Lucas, is Jerry your cousin?" I kept my composure. Why would you think that? She studied my face for a moment, then said nonchalantly, "Just a feeling." I felt a flicker of relief, but kept my expression flat. "Well, your feeling is wrong," I said. She just smiled and didn't press the issue. It was only later that I found out why she had asked. Jerry was trying to ask her out. It wasn't because he actually liked her. It was because she had once defended me in front of some other students. Since the beginning of the year, Jerry hadn't dared to confront me directly. Instead, he resorted to spreading rumors behind my back, tarnishing my name among our classmates. All kinds of rumors about me were flying around the school. They said I was adopted, an outsider taken in by their family. They said I had been kicked out for stealing and was forced to live in the dorms. Jerry, meanwhile, was painted as the noble hero who had chosen to attend our school because he couldn't bear to be apart from me, desperate to repair our brotherly bond. I, of course, was the petty, ungrateful one who refused to forgive him. I was the bad guy in his story. The rumors grew more and more outlandish, eventually reaching Olivia's ears. She didn't believe a word of it. "Sounds like a cuckoo in the nest," she had commented offhandedly. And because of that one comment, Jerry became convinced that she was on my side, that she liked me. So, he started to pursue her. Of course, anything and everything that had to do with me, he had to have. In my past life, Jerry and I had also been at the same high school, just in different classes. In our senior year, I had a girlfriend who was a great student. She often helped me with my studies, and we planned to go to the same college. When Jerry found out, he started showering her with attention, constantly asking her out. And she didn't refuse. She reveled in the ambiguous attention. Our classmates would joke that she was so lucky, dating 2 brothers at once. She was living a double life. After graduation, she officially became Jerry's girlfriend. On the day I died, she didn't even bother to come to my funeral. But she was right on time for his graduation party. After everything that happened in my past life, I understood that girlfriends were unreliable. One handsome face, a few sweet words, and they would turn on you in a heartbeat. It was a simple formula. They were not to be trusted. So, this time, I had no illusions about Olivia. I was fully prepared for her to eventually fall for Jerry's act. But she didn't. To my surprise, she never did. She seemed so carefree and easygoing, but she was much smarter than she let on. Jerry tried to flirt with her in front of me more than once, always with a veiled insult directed at me. And every single time, she shut him down. Her excuses for rejecting him were always creative. She never used the same one twice. Once, when Olivia was standing right there, Jerry came over, putting on his concerned brother act. "Bro, Mom and Dad said they really miss you. When are you going to come home? Don't be so stubborn. They're your parents, after all. Don't be so cruel. If you have a problem with me, I'll apologize. It's my fault, I'm sorry. Just don't take it out on Mom and Dad, okay?" Olivia couldn't take it anymore. She turned to him and said, "Wow, the thief is crying stop thief." And with such a straight face, too. Jerry's face turned pale with rage. After that, he gave up on pursuing her. I have to admit, from that moment on, my opinion of my desk mate completely changed. After that, I started talking to her more. Sometimes, her jokes would even make me laugh. Once, when I laughed, she suddenly said, "When you smile," she said suddenly, "you're way better looking than Jerry." Her gaze was so earnest, and her tone so serious, that it startled me. For the next few weeks, I hardly dared to smile. In our junior year, when we had to choose between STEM and humanities tracks, Jerry's grades were so bad he had to go with humanities. We were finally in different classes. My high school life finally completely brightened up. I started getting more involved, ran for student council, and was elected as the academic representative for our class. I started talking with my classmates a lot more. The rumors about me fell apart in the face of reality. Everyone realized the old stories were complete nonsense. My grades consistently ranked in the top 2 of our year. First place was always either me or Olivia. From start to finish, the number 1 spot was never held by anyone else. The school was hoping we would both aim to be valedictorians, and the teachers wanted us to keep motivating each other. So, no one dared to split us up. And so, we remained desk mates for all 3 years of high school, from freshman to senior year. I could sense that she liked me, but I never reciprocated. I even tried to convince her to give up on the idea. Before the SATs, I couldn't let anything affect my focus, especially not a rival who was my academic equal. When she realized I was resolute about not dating in high school, she changed her approach. "What if we got into the same college? Could we date then?" I was at a loss, so I just said, "We'll see how you do." One New Year's Eve, the security guard who was supposed to be on duty at the dorms called in sick. I also needed to grab some clothes I had left behind, so I decided to make a quick trip home. When I knocked and went inside, the expressions on my parents' and sisters' faces were all different, but they had one thing in common. None of them looked happy to see me. I saw that my old room had been converted into a study for Jerry. And all of my clothes? They had sold them all for scrap. I just smiled, wished them a happy New Year's Eve, and left with my suitcase to check into a hotel. After that day, I never went back to that house again. It was Jerry's home, not mine. In the blink of an eye, high school was over, and I was finally an adult. When the SAT scores were released, Olivia and I had the exact same score. We were co-valedictorians. We were both accepted to Harvard. As for Jerry, he tried to get in as an art student, but his portfolio was mediocre. His academic scores were even worse than in my past life, and not a single school would accept him. My parents were frantic with worry, and once again, they turned to me for a solution. But this time, I had a high public profile from the exam results. All the top universities knew who I was. They had no leverage to pull any strings. Unwilling to accept Jerry's failure, they went to the Harvard admissions office. They introduced themselves as my parents and asked if Jerry could get in on my coattails. They probably planned to threaten the dean the same way they had my high school principal. But the university administrators were serious people who didn't entertain their nonsense for a second, shutting them down immediately. The dean simply contacted me, asked me to come to the office, and assured me that they would respect my decision. In front of the dean, my parents and Jerry all knelt down. They begged me, for the sake of family, to let go of the past and help my cousin one last time. I looked at them without a trace of emotion and said 2 words. I refuse. After that, I took my scholarship money and rented an apartment in a city far from home. Olivia was still persistent, asking me out to dinner almost every day. She kept asking if her performance had been good enough. "The SATs are over," she would say seriously. "So, can I be your girlfriend now?" Under her relentless charm, I finally caved and reluctantly agreed. Since my girlfriend in this life was her, she was infinitely better than the one from my last life. Maybe I thought I could try believing in love again. We started dating like a normal couple, going to movies and walking around the city. For a while, I thought my life would finally be peaceful. Until that day, we were crossing the street, holding hands, when a beat-up old truck ran a red light and barreled straight for us. The memory of being hit, of flying through the air, flooded my mind. I froze. My brain went completely blank. My feet felt like they were encased in cement. Olivia reacted in a flash. She yanked me back with all her might. I fell to the pavement, scraping my knee, but the truck sped past, missing us by inches. She quickly helped me to my feet, her face etched with concern, asking if I was all right. I stared at the truck's retreating taillights. I was almost certain of it. That was the same truck that had killed me in my past life. But the date was wrong. It wasn't the same day I had died. And this wasn't the same street. It could only mean one thing. That truck was coming for me. Someone wanted me dead. We went to a nearby coffee shop and tried to piece everything together. I obviously didn't mention anything about a past life. I just laid out my fragmented suspicions. Anyone else would have thought I was being paranoid, that I was crazy. But Olivia didn't. She just followed my train of thought, helping me sort through the clues one by one. In the end, we both arrived at the same conclusion. Jerry wanted me dead. On Olivia's advice, I hired a private investigator to look into what Jerry had been up to lately. It didn't take long for the truth to come out. The truck driver was a friend of Jerry's biological father, my late uncle. His name was Vince. For years, he had operated on the fringes of the law, doing dirty work for hire. Jerry had paid him $5,000 to run me down. The plan was brutally simple. Kill me, ditch the truck at a junkyard, and then Vince would be smuggled out of the country to Southeast Asia. Jerry had arranged a job for him with a company over there, promising him he'd make a fortune. But the investigator discovered the truth. It wasn't a real company. It was a human trafficking ring running a scam compound in a lawless part of Southeast Asia. Once you were in, you never got out. The moment I found out, a chill ran down my spine, and I couldn't stop shaking. I had always known Jerry hated me, but I never imagined that the car crash that killed me in my past life had also been his doing. He didn't just want to take everything from me. He wanted me dead. Olivia squeezed my hand. The warmth of her palm was one of the few comforts I had in those dark days. For the next few days, she never left my side, helping me figure out what to do next. Before Vince could make another attempt, I contacted him myself and arranged a meeting. Vince was suspicious of me, his tone sarcastic and hostile from the moment we met. I didn't waste any time on small talk. I just laid the investigator's file on the table in front of him. He thought he was getting a high-paying job overseas. In reality, Jerry was planning to get rid of him too by selling him to the human traffickers for $10,000. That way, Jerry would eliminate me, the thorn in his side, and pocket an extra $5,000 in the process. When Vince understood what was happening, his eyes went red. He cursed Jerry through tears, and then, to my surprise, he thanked me. Vince had certainly done bad things in his past. In my last life, he was my murderer, but he was also, in his own way, a man of loyalty and principle. The only reason he had agreed to help Jerry was that my uncle had once saved his life. Now, the tables had turned. I had saved him, and Jerry was the one holding the knife, ready to destroy them both. What he did to Jerry after that was none of my business. All I can say is Jerry brought it on himself. Just before the semester started, my parents called. They said Jerry was missing and asked if I had seen him. I gave a short, cold laugh and hung up the phone. They only remembered they had a son when it had something to do with Jerry. I didn't need parents like that. I blocked their numbers. Then, with my suitcase in one hand and Olivia's hand in the other, I boarded a train to Boston. My biased parents, my hypocritical sister, and my scheming, murderous cousin would no longer be obstacles in my way. A bright future, full of possibilities, was waiting for me. In college, Olivia and I became the couple everyone on campus envied. Every semester, we both earned full scholarships. We gave speeches as student representatives and won so many academic awards we lost count. We both had plenty of admirers, but we were completely devoted to each other, never wavering, never betraying that trust. She was the one who taught me that it wasn't wrong to believe in love. As long as you find the right person, every day feels like sunshine. Later, I heard through the grapevine from old classmates and relatives what had happened. Vince had sold Jerry to that same scam compound in Southeast Asia. There, he was subjected to unimaginable abuse. The trafficking ring bled him dry, torturing him while they extorted a massive ransom from my parents. My parents went mad with desperation. They sold the house, the car, borrowed from everyone they knew, and even got involved with loan sharks. They spent over $100,000 to finally get him back. But the Jerry who returned was a broken man. He was missing a kidney. His body was covered in festering wounds. One of his legs had been shattered, and his mind was gone. He was violent and feral, attacking anyone who came near. My parents sank another fortune into his medical care, all while being relentlessly hounded by their creditors. With nowhere left to turn, they showed up at my university begging me for help. I transferred $50,000 to their account. "This is everything I've saved over the past few years from scholarships and part-time jobs," I told them. "Thank you for raising me for the first 14 years of my life. From this moment on, we are even. Please don't come looking for me again. My debt to you is paid." They collapsed on the ground, weeping and begging me to give them another chance. They swore they would disown Jerry, that I would be their only son from now on. I walked away without a backward glance. When I got back to the library, my chest felt tight, and it was hard to breathe. Olivia sat quietly beside me, not saying a word, just holding my hand. "Don't dwell on it," she said softly. "It's all over now." I watched a bird fly past the window in the distance. "Yeah," I whispered, "it's over." When his fiancée, Olivia, abandons their engagement party for her best friend, Jerry, the secretly wealthy heir, Lucas, enacts swift revenge. He immediately cuts her off financially and dismantles the career he built for her. As Olivia's life unravels, she and Jerry plot to drug Lucas and trap him at his birthday party. The scheme backfires spectacularly, thanks to Lucas and his new, powerful ally, Xiaoman, leading to public humiliation for the pair. Their downfall culminates in a violent, self-destructive spiral of crime and imprisonment, while Lucas, finally free, finds success in a true partnership with Xiaoman.